Snow was falling heavily on a quiet New York street. People hurried past in thick coats, their breath visible in the cold air, each person focused on their own destination. The city was busy, loud, and full of life, but near a small bus stop on the corner, a tired mother stood struggling with two heavy grocery bags. Her hands were red from the cold. Her shoulders ached after a long day of work, and every time she tried to lift the bags, her arms trembled slightly from exhaustion. Beside her stood her 6-year-old daughter, Lily. Lily was small, with bright curious eyes and a worn little teddy bear tucked under her arm. She watched her mother carefully, noticing the way she kept trying to lift the bags and failing. The little girl looked worried. Across the street, a row of luxury cars was parked outside an elegant restaurant glowing with warm golden lights. People inside laughed and talked as waiters carried expensive meals to their tables. Standing near the entrance of the restaurant was Daniel Carter, a millionaire real estate investor. He wore a perfectly tailored coat and expensive watch. In one hand he held his phone, quickly responding to messages and emails. Business deals, investment updates, meetings scheduled for the next morning. His life moved quickly, filled with numbers, contracts, and success. He was used to walking through life without really noticing the small struggles happening around him. But Lily noticed him. To her, he looked strong, confident, someone who could easily lift the heavy bags her mother was struggling with. She gently tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy." Sarah looked down at her daughter with tired eyes. "Yes, sweetheart." Lily pointed across the street. Her voice was soft, innocent, and full of simple hope. "Don't carry, Mommy, maybe that man will help us." Sarah followed her daughter's finger and saw the man standing by the restaurant. For a moment she hesitated. People like him usually didn't notice people like them. He looked important, busy, probably heading somewhere much more important than helping a stranger with groceries. Sarah forced a small smile and shook her head. "It's okay, honey. Mommy can handle it." But Lily kept watching him. Children often see kindness where adults see distance. Before Sarah could stop her, Lily carefully stepped away and began walking across the street. Her small boots crunched softly in the thin layer of snow. Daniel was about to step into his car when he heard a tiny voice behind him. "Excuse me, sir." He turned around, slightly surprised. Standing there was a small girl holding a teddy bear. Her cheeks were pink from the cold, but her eyes were bright and fearless. Daniel knelt slightly so he could hear her better. "Yes." Lily pointed across the street. "My mommy is very tired." Daniel looked where she pointed. He saw Sarah near the bus stop, struggling again with the grocery bags. The wind blew through the street, pushing strands of hair across her face as she tried once more to lift the bags. For a few seconds, Daniel simply watched. All day he had been thinking about deals worth millions of dollars. But suddenly, those deals felt very far away. He stood up and walked across the street with Lily. When he reached Sarah, he spoke gently. "Let me help you with those." Sarah looked surprised. "Oh, you really don't have to." But Daniel had already picked up the bags. They felt heavy, but manageable. "Where are you headed?" he asked. "Just 2 blocks," Sarah replied quietly. "Then I'll walk with you." So the three of them began walking slowly down the street together. Snow continued to fall softly around them. For the first time that evening, Sarah didn't feel completely overwhelmed. As they walked, Daniel asked simple questions. He learned that Sarah worked 2 jobs, one at a grocery store during the day, another cleaning offices at night. Life hadn't been easy since moving to the city, but she worked hard to give Lily the best life she could. Lily walked happily beside them, occasionally swinging Daniel's free hand. After a few minutes she looked up at him curiously. "Are you rich?" Sarah immediately looked embarrassed. "Lily, that's not polite." But Daniel laughed softly. "Well, I guess you could say that." Lily thought about that answer carefully. "My mommy says rich people are lucky." Daniel paused. He had heard many things about wealth before. Powerful, successful, impressive, but lucky, he wasn't sure. A few minutes later they reached a small apartment building. Old bricks, narrow stairs, nothing luxurious, but a soft yellow light shone through the windows. Daniel placed the grocery bags near the door. Sarah looked at him with genuine gratitude. "Thank you. That was very kind of you." He nodded politely, but before he could leave, Lily suddenly spoke again. "Mommy, we should invite him for hot chocolate." Sarah quickly shook her head. "Oh no, I'm so sorry." But Daniel smiled. "Hot chocolate actually sounds pretty great." Inside the small apartment, the air was warm. A tiny Christmas tree stood in the corner with a few simple decorations. Nothing expensive, but the room felt alive. Lily happily ran to the kitchen to prepare hot chocolate while Sarah apologized again for the unexpected invitation. Daniel sat quietly for a moment, looking around. This place was small compared to his penthouse. Simple compared to the luxury he was used to. But something about it felt peaceful. When Lily returned with 3 mugs of hot chocolate, she proudly handed one to Daniel. He took a sip. It was sweet, warm, and comforting. They talked and laughed for nearly an hour. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time. Not success, not achievement, just simple human connection. When he finally stood to leave, the snow had stopped falling outside. The city lights reflected softly on the quiet streets. Daniel looked down at Lily. "Thank you for asking me to help." She smiled proudly. "I knew you would." As Daniel walked back to his car, something inside him felt different. All the money in the world had never given him a moment like this. All because of one small voice that said, "Don't carry, Mommy, maybe that man will help us." Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change an entire day. And sometimes, the person you help ends up helping you the most.